Hello, and welcome to Off the Field and Screens, the Detroit Way, a Detroit sports podcast. I'm your host, Chad Marriott, and we had in Detroit sports, Michigan sports in general, had one hell of a weekend, and not in a good way. We started with the Tigers losing in Game 5 of the ALDS on Friday in a 15-inning battle. Saturday, for those that care, the Michigan Wolverines lost to USC, and despite what certain people are saying, I mean, it effectively ends their season. They have to be perfect, can't lose the rest of the way, and they don't look like a team that can do that. Then again, they didn't look like they could beat Ohio State and Alabama last year, so. And then the Lions lost on Sunday Night Football to Kansas City. Let's start there, though. There's a lot of talk about how the Chiefs didn't get any penalties in that game. And that is, I mean, that's rare and makes it look like the Chiefs get favorable officiating. And I think that, there's a study that came out recently from UTEP. They did a study where they found that, the Kansas City Chiefs do get beneficial whistles. And the reason for that is they had Patrick Mahomes, greatest quarterback in the NFL. Of course the NFL wants to push that. But more importantly, I think if Travis Kelce and the Taylor Swift stuff leaves Kansas City, so will all this attention. They can't have them miss the playoffs. And I'm not saying it's rigged or anything like that. I don't want to be over the top. But it does that. Perception helps the NFL, and at the end of the day, they are a money-making business. They're in it to make money, and the Chiefs and the Taylor Swiftiness of it all helps them make money. But I think more importantly, the Lions didn't really help themselves in this game. They made some key mistakes that you can't make. They had roughing the passer on Hutchinson, and you could say, oh, that's not roughing the passer. Yeah, the Lions have to know better that it's Patrick Mahomes. You can't breathe on the dude. It's like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning of yesteryear, except for the NFL is way beyond the kind of quarterback favoritism they had then. Again, it's a money-making business. You don't want Lamar Jackson out. You don't want Patrick Mahomes out. You want those guys, Josh Allen, you want them on the field because they put butts in the seats that get eyeballs on the TVs. That's who you want playing. So, yeah, they're not going to let that go. But then Amon-Ra had that big dropped pass late in the game, and it was kind of over from there. My point is, with the Lions, I think they're going to be fine, but this is why people were panicking from a couple of segments against the Browns and then against the Bengals, is if you play a team like this, with this talent at quarterback or this media perception, whatever, the mistakes, you're not going to get away with them. You can't let Patrick Mahomes have the same opportunities that you gave Jake Browning, because Jake Browning will throw it directly to the other team, and Patrick Mahomes will make that. He had that one incredible throw that, was it Derek Barnes just about got to on that pass for a touchdown. I mean, the game started out great. The offense still looked good. They held them. Ultimately, I think the biggest thing that is noticeable was, I think Skipper this week, Dan Skipper, was in for Taylor Decker, and they need Taylor Decker back. That's 2 weeks in a row that spot on the offensive line has proved to be a weakness, because Goff was getting hurried, and he did pretty well. But it did, this week, stop the Lions from really establishing a running game, and that's going to hurt them anytime, because that's what this team does. That's what they need to do. But I think it's an overreaction to freak out about it. I think they'll be fine. The thing to freak out about is if they lose on Monday night to Tampa Bay and they fall to 4-3, then suddenly it's, well, they beat up on a Bears team finding its footing. They beat up on a Ravens team that maybe isn't even that good. And Then the Bengals with no Joe Burrow, and whatever the Cleveland Browns have been putting out on the field. Okay, so those are your 4 wins. Your 2 losses are to Green Bay, a playoff team, and Kansas City, a playoff team. If you lose to Tampa Bay, then it's, oh, well, they're beating the teams that are inferior and they can't beat the other good teams. That's a narrative worth watching, but I'm not super concerned. I think they're going to be fine. I believe in Dan Campbell, and this is several weeks in a row that he said we got things to clean up. It's time to clean them up. Yeah, they need to play some mistake-free football this week and kind of reestablish who they are, that they're the disciplined, brand new Lions and not giving fans PTSD of the same old Lions, which I am not at all suggesting that they are. But they need to come out and really put Tampa Bay on their back feet and give them the business, as you would say. All right, so more importantly, the Tigers. Let's talk about the Tigers losing. They had that great game 4 where they bounced back and they scored all those runs, but I think you can link to that game and the difference in game 5 to really show all the problems that this team has had. It's the approach at the plate. The media narrative is going to be, well, they needed more guys to hit home runs. Get the sluggers out there. Slugger, home run, baby. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're swinging at bad pitches. The fact that the broadcast was talking about, oh, they just keep throwing sliders and they keep chasing. They can't hit the slider. I mean, that's the whole problem they had in the second half, is they expanded the strike zone and let teams get away with giving them shit pitches, and they were chasing. And that's what happened in that game 5. And a lot of people will want to say, oh, they should have left Skubal in another inning. Oh, the bullpen, this and that. The bullpen was fantastic up until Tommy Kahnle in the 15th inning. Skubal pitched 6 innings of 1-run ball, and the bullpen went from, the 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. The bullpen pitched 8 innings of 1-run ball. And then Kahnle gave up that 3rd run. But, there's not much more you can ask for from a bullpen. They did their job. The Tigers have got to find a way to hit. And disastrous in that game is that, again, with runners in scoring position, they hit 1 for 9 and they left 10 on base. Why is that? Oh, it's because they didn't have a home run hitter. That's what the Tigers media now, all the beat writers will say. If they had Eugenio Suarez, he would have hit a home run. Yeah. Or he would have struck out and looked exactly like all the Tigers hitters we already have, because they expanded the strike zone like Suarez does. That guy had 1 hit in the whole series. It was a home run. Woohoo! Anyway, that's the problem. They're all trying to hit home runs. They're expanding the strike zone, the swings were getting really long, and that's because when things started to go wrong this season, everybody reverted back to factory settings, because a lot of the Al Avila draft picks, which people were giving a lot of credit to Al Avila this year. Oh, Scott Harris didn't do anything. These are all Al Avila players. Well, all the Al Avila players expand the strike zone a lot. They strike out a lot. Those are the type of players he went to get. So that has a lot to do with it. There's nothing more emblematic of the problem than Riley Green's uppercut swing. Yeah, he hits more home runs, but it increases his strikeouts and lowers his batting average. Yes, strikeouts matter. And for more on this, you could look at the Off the Field and Screen website to get more detailed breakdowns of each of these games. But Torkelson, Green, and Keith went hitless in that game, combining for 0 for 17. And I want to make sure I find this about... Let's break into that end of season press conference, because the game, 15 innings, it was a battle. It's an all-time classic, but Tigers couldn't find a way to push another run across because they were trying to hit home runs instead of just blooping in some singles or taking a walk. Because what happened in game 4 is they did all that because they were taking the walks and hitting the singles and going first to third. That's how they did so well in the first half. The home runs came as a result of that, not the other way around. It's the problem as we move into this post-mortem for the Tigers this year. It's the problem with analytics is people cherry pick. And they'll say, well, power numbers lead to more wins. Look. Yeah, but so does on-base percentage. And the Tigers' on-base percentage at the end of the season and in the playoffs wasn't always great. And when they had runners in scoring position, you're like, well, they need to hit home runs. No, they just need somebody to put the ball in play. There were a couple times in that Game 5 where a fly ball probably wins the Tigers the game. But they couldn't do that because everybody's swinging from the heels. Even Javier Baez, who had a better second half of the season, swinging from the heels. And I want to get into this because Scott Harris took the time to point out something that I've always observed from this Tigers team. A few years ago, before he took over, they won 66 games and had one of the worst farm systems in baseball. If you had told me then that a couple of years later we'd be back-to-back ALDS team with one of the top three, it depends on which group you ask, one of the top three farm systems in baseball, and that we're still young, I would be like, heck yeah, this is awesome. But our view of the situation is shaded by expectations because they started out so well. They started out so well. The expectations of that first to 60 wins, 15.5 game lead over Cleveland, all that collapsing is really, it's not good. And I'm not trying to excuse that at all or say that you shouldn't care at all. But there's a lot of positive to be excited about with this young team, with a good farm system. And ultimately, the things that need to be fixed are the approach at the plate. Everything stems from that. Expanding the strike zone and getting these really long swings killed them post All-Star break. And the more that they struggled, the more they tried to hit home runs. Don't hit home run. If the Tigers add somebody that has a low batting average, high strikeout, and high home run totals, I'm going to rip my hair out because I can't stand watching another player swing from the heels like that. Oh, well, they hit 30 home runs and they struck out 200 times. Who cares? It's not winning baseball. All right, and one of the reasons why this perspective comes up, the whole get a big bat, get a slugger, get a big name, Chris Ilitch is cheap, etc., etc. This comes from, I think, the Dave Dombrowski effect, that Dombrowski pulled some type of witch magic voodoo or something that the Marlins were willing to trade Andrew Miller, a career 4.03 ERA, 7.7 wins above replacement, and Cameron Maben, a 697 career OPS, 13.4 wins above replacement, for Miguel Cabrera, the Triple Crown winning MVP, Hall of Famer, 977 OPS, 51.4 wins above replacement from 2008 to 2016. Now, I see why everybody on the internet is like, trade Ryan Kreidler for Aaron Judge and Matt Manning for Shohei Ohtani. Now, I know you people don't actually say that, but that's what you sound like to me with the trades you're suggesting. You sound like morons, the clickbait mock trade stuff. It's stupid, it's not realistic, it's not happening. All right, so, I mean, and those teams too, they only had a few homegrown players. This is more sustainable. Because what Dombrowski did was empty the closet, trade everything, get everything he can to try and get the team to win. And Scott Harris and Dave Dombrowski for the Detroit Tigers have the same amount of World Series titles. So there you go. And the Harris book isn't yet written all the way. We're going to find out, though. So he talked about at the end of the season conference, the focus at the plate, the making contact, and the pitching health, which I think is a very fair explanation and reasonable explanation for why they struggled. Doesn't make it acceptable, but let's check this. The Tigers were 14th in on-base percentage at the end of the season, 15th in walks, and 15th in batting average. So they're kind of middling there. They need to be better. But 5th in strikeouts. 5th. They're striking out like crazy. And that's the reason why they started to struggle. You look at a few of the key players. Green had 201 strikeouts for 36 home runs. Torkelson had 169 for 31 home runs. And Baez has, I believe, one of the most absurd splits on that front. I don't know what's going on here. He struck out 109 times for his 10 walks. It's not going to get it done. And then for those of you that were like freaking out about Riley Green striking out, and then you're like, we need sluggers. Suarez, just to give some comparisons, Green struck out 201 times. He had 97 of those strikeouts from July 1st to the end of the season. He did have 17 home runs, but he only hit 215. Now, Suarez, in that same span, hit 198, struck out 108 times, and hit 23 home runs. And, you know, of course, what that would be is everybody would still scream, but you have 6 more home runs. Who cares if he strikes out? Which is annoying because you're like, Green can't strike out like that. But I want a guy that strikes out and hits a lot of home runs. Talking out of both sides of your mouth. And my big problem with this is back when they won 66 games, the argument was get big names, get sluggers, Chris Ilitch is cheap, and heads are going to roll in the front office. And then they make the playoffs 2 years in a row, and the narrative is we need big names and sluggers. Chris Ilitch is cheap, and heads are going to roll in the front office. So why is that? Why is that the narrative doesn't change? I mean, the Dombrowski thing maybe makes a little bit of sense, or could it be that that type of screaming and ranting and raving generates clicks and generates views, and it's big names generate more clicks and views if they're on the team than players with less national headlines that are better? I would venture to guess if you go through a lot of these beat writers, anything they write about Javier Baez is doing really well, regardless of how bad or good Javier Baez has been over his time in Detroit. So that's why they probably like more big names. Let me talk about the Al Avila problem. A lot of these people mentioned that, came from that era. And then I've seen people saying the Tigers need more starting pitching. Now, they need more healthy starting pitching. But I don't think starters should be the emphasis this offseason, barring the availability of like a legit number 2 starter. So you look at the possible rotation of Tarek Skubal, Reese Olson, Casey Mize, Troy Melton, and Jackson Jobe. I'd be pretty happy with that. Tarek Skubal, Cy Young winner. I'm not going to go over his numbers. Casey Mize showed that he has all-star potential this year. And Reese Olson has been really good when he's been healthy. That's the problem, is when healthy. He's not been very often. That Troy Melton, I think, is a breakout star this year, and one of the things that people should take away from this season, the end of the season, because he was a bright spot in a disappointing second half. And Jackson Jobe, don't forget, I still think that guy's going to be, an all-star level, top of the rotation type pitcher, which means that I think you arguably have Olson. I think could be a 2-3 guy in a rotation of a World Series winning team. I think Troy Melton and Jackson Jobe have both showed that they can be 2-3 guys as well, maybe even higher. Who knows what the trajectory could be. Casey Mize is a good back end guy, 3, 4, 5 starter on a World Series winning team. So I think you have the makings of that. And then for the bullpen, just to run through this real quickly, Will Vest, Cater Montero, Tyler Holton, Brant Herter, and Kyle Finnegan. So that's Vest, Montero, Holton, Finnegan, Herter. That's 5 of your 8 bullpen arms. I think if the Tigers are going to do anything splashy, go get a closer. Go get a swing and miss closer. I know Hinch loves put him in the high leverage situations regardless of what inning. I don't care. Go get a closer. Go get a guy that can get some swing and miss. And I mean, you really saw them miss like Bo Brisky and Alex Lang, who I think will get shots to make this team next year because of the swing and miss. I don't know if they'll be able to bounce back or if they'll be able to get there, but they'll get every look because they have swing and miss stuff. They both ranked high among the Tigers' Ks per 9 in 2024. They missed those guys. And even Foley doesn't have that swing and miss stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a shot either. But they really need to go get like a bona fide like swing and miss closer. That's if they're going to do anything splashy. That's what I recommend. All right. And then I want to break down some of these media narratives that started to form at the end of the year press conference. You could tell that they want the Scooble thing to be a thing. And it's interesting that Scott Harris, the way he answered that question was, well, this will get chopped up and, I'm not going to say anything because they'll chop it up and make it look like I'm saying X, Y, or Z. And even in his attempt to avoid that happening, it happened. I was listening to a podcast almost immediately after, and they're like, that was coded language for we're trading Scooble, or we're going to look to trade Scooble. And it's like, no matter what he says, the narratives are going to be fueled that, oh, they should do this, oh, they're going to do that, oh, what, So take that all with a grain of salt. The media is going to use that as a talking point because it drives traffic. Oh, is Scooble on the move? Because it's going to get a lot of clicks. It's the same thing with Bregman. Alex Bregman opted out of his contract. I'm not falling for that stuff again. I'm not following it at all. Until I see an article that says Alex Bregman signed with the Detroit Tigers. Because last year that was just, I know he came close, but it was just this big fiasco, people pumping out material about it constantly because it was driving traffic. And then the Chris Ilitch being cheap thing. The Tigers had the 17th most, so they're a little bit around the middle in terms of spending. But they do have a very young team, and they're getting a lot of production from valuable contracts right now. So I'm not going to say that that's bad. But they had a 40% increase, 40% of their payroll came from off-season acquisitions last year. $65 million from Jack Flaherty, Tommy Kahnle, Gleyber Torres, Alex Cobb, and John Brebbia. If you want to make any complaint there, it's not that Chris Ilitch is cheap, it's that Scott Harris signed the wrong guys. And at the time, some of those were popular and some of those were not. Brebbia, outright failure. Cobb, I guess they should have done a better medical examination. I don't know. Jack Flaherty has not turned out the way that they probably hoped or anyone hoped. I thought that was going to be a great addition. And in the postseason, he did pitch better. I'll be curious to see what his future has ahead of him in terms of the Tigers' future. The same for Gleyber Torres. I think Gleyber Torres, the reason they signed him is because he had a good approach at the plate, and he showed that for most of the season. He was hurt at the end of the year, and when his approach kind of started to struggle, the whole team kind of followed suit. Before his hernia issue, so up through the end of August, he struck out 78 times, walked 71 times through the first 122 games. And in September, he struck out 23 times in 23 games. So, that's a big uptick. And just to hit on that, with the future that's coming up, McGonigal struck out 46 times, walked 59 times in 88 games. And Max Clark, struck out 90 times and walked 94 times in 111 games. Notice they both walked more than they struck out. Now, that's probably not going to hold up against Major League pitching, but the approach is clearly less swing and miss for the guys that Harris has drafted. And it'll be interesting to see how a full generation of that type of player affects the Tigers' whole lineup. Because when you have this many swing and miss players, high strikeout guys, it's hard to maintain success. So let's talk about the other narrative. Oh, about the trade deadline. Yeah, I've gone over that. It wasn't good. He would have been better off not doing anything than getting Chris Paddock and Charlie Morton. Tater Montero would have been better, and Sawyer Gipson-Long pitched just as well as both of them. Still not good, but I mean, at least you didn't trade anything for it, I guess. Yeah, those didn't work out. Uh, Kyle Finnegan and Rafael Montero um, did a good job helping get them to the postseason. They pitched well in the regular season. They both struggled a little bit in the postseason. I think Finnegan was overused and Montero wasn't really ready for that. But he did pitch well. He got the job done, ate some innings without too much damage in the regular season. Rafael Montero, that is. Ultimately, where I come down is this team is actually this organization is in a really good place. The media would have you think this is one of the worst organizations in baseball. They're stuck in 2022 because that narrative sold, and it sells now because a lot of panic and fear mongering going on. But they have a good farm system. They have guys coming up. They have a good young core. Dylan Dingler and Troy Melton were really breakout players this year. And Kerry Carpenter could be a star if he ever stays healthy for a whole season. And not to be missed, Spencer Torkelson and Casey Mize aren't setting the world on fire, but the fact that you've found quality players out of those 2 number 1 overall picks is a massive save. The fact that they've been able to turn their careers around, not that they're going to be franchise pillars, but they can be contributors. That's huge. I mean, people don't necessarily want to jump for joy out of, our number 1 picks turned out to be quality MLB, they're not stars. That's something. It looked like they were both going to be off the team this year, and Mize made an all-star game, and Torkelson looks like a solid option at first base going forward. So, yeah, lots to be excited about. They're in a good place. I don't think it's time to fret. But this offseason, there's a lot a lot of weight should be put on what they do to get better next year. And it can't be high strikeout sluggers. They need to get guys that put the ball in play. Batting average, I know that analytics people say it doesn't matter. It does matter. The ability to put the bat to ball is huge. I mean, it just makes all the difference in the world to be able to do that. It sounds silly that we're arguing about batting average, matters or doesn't matter. It does matter. Okay, so let's move on. Quickly talk about the Pistons before we wrap up. The next episode is going to have a season preview that's coming out next week before the season starts. So I just want to talk on them real quick. Cade Cunningham, I think, could be getting ready to have an MVP level type season. He's always been very good, and he looks even better. But more important, it just looks so easy. He looks so calm. I think you're going to see any of the bad shot selection or the turnovers are going to dip. And he's going to become even more efficient. Efficient, calm, and talented. Oh, man. Pistons got a top 5 player, I think, in the NBA. He's going to be. I think this year he'll establish himself that way. Asar Thompson could be the breakout star this year. I mean, he also looks so calm, and being healthy, things are looking a lot smoother for him out there. He still freaks me out as like an athlete. He still does things that even in the preseason that I saw that I'm like, whoa, how did he get there? Or how did he get to that ball? It's impressive. And then Jalen Duren in his first preseason action looked really good. And I think a lot of people are going to have to eat their words about how much shit they talked about him. I think he's going to be really, really good because the upside was always there, the athleticism, and now he's looking confident and making the right plays and getting in the right spot on defense. It's going to be good. And then I've seen a lot of online things trafficking about stupid trades. And would you people quit already? Can you stop? They're not trading Ivy, Asar, Holland, Duren, Tobias Harris, and 4 first-round picks for Giannis Antetokounmpo. And even if they could, how stupid are you people? Who would buy that dumb shit? All right. Let's talk about the Red Wings. I got to go to Little Caesars Arena this weekend and watch them put it on the Maple Leafs, which was so fun. That second line with Patrick Kane, Alex DeBrincat, and Marco Kasper is so much fun to watch. They're always getting in the right spots and moving around. Oh, so much fun. And then Simon Edvinson bullying the Maple Leafs like, oh man, that was a great time. I enjoyed that. And then I really like their coach. I like all the coaches in Detroit right now. I really do. Todd McClellan is awesome. When they got blown out in that first game, and he said, when are you guys gonna start fixing it? You've been here a long time. And when he first got hired to play effing hockey, and then he asked the guys, are you tired of this yet? Which is awesome. I think that sometimes an organization like Dan Campbell came in and loved the guys. He's like, you guys are my guys and I love you and all of that, which that team needed. That organization needed. This Red Wings organization needs more tough love. Like, hey, quit pouting, go and play, go win some games. This is enough. This is unacceptable. And they needed that. And he's the right exact mentality for what this team needs. They need to be toughened up. And they played tougher in these last two games against the Maple Leafs. And, that was fantastic. And then talk about Cam Talbot. Oh, he didn't get a lot of talk this offseason because the big deal was supposed to be John Gibson. We're 3 games into the year. Could still happen that way. But Talbot has been phenomenal and kept them in games and made some incredible plays, especially on that Monday afternoon. That was just absolutely phenomenal, turning back the clock from Cam Talbot. So, all right, that is all we have this week. It's a weird little phase where the thing to be most excited about this week was the Red Wings' first 3 games of the season, followed by the Pistons' preseason games, and then, kind of disappointing loss from the Lions, and then disappointing ending to the Tigers' season. But that is all we have for you this week. This has been the Detroit Way.